So we got another busy day of Formula D prep on this 350Z. Yesterday, Brandon and I have been tag teaming underneath, trying to get a lot of the dirt, grime, as well as seam sealer and any of the undercoating underneath so we can go ahead and stitch weld the car. But we're trying to focus on that stuff during the evening. And today, Tommy's still going on the quarter panels. He's cut down the quarter panels and he's putting in the sealing it off potentially, and it's going to take a couple days for him to do that, so he's still working on that. So we're going to go out and check on him doing that. Today I'm going to focus on the parts I need for the engine. The first car had, or the car originally had, the LS1 engine in it, and it gave out. We don't know exactly why yet. We just pulled it out, and that's what I'm going to try to figure out today. And we have another engine to go in, and we're going to go again and discuss that, see the options, and make sure I get all the parts in order, and just double check on Tommy and see what else we can keep moving. We got a limited amount of time for that to happen. We got a couple months. I think April's the first event, so we have to all kind of like tag team certain areas of it to make sure that we keep the process going and going and going. So today, gonna go ahead and engine. Tommy's gonna work on the car chassis, and then afterwards the work was to get back on doing the grime underneath the car. So pretty busy day today. Alright, let's start the day. Alright, we got Tommy out here jamming out. Close your eyes. Filling in the antenna hole. And you're doing this to keep the smoke out, right? So once all this is underneath here, all these openings could allow for tower smoke to get through into areas that we don't really want to. Gets inside of here, pushes its way into the engine bay. I mean, inside of the cockpit, sorry, and then could get a little wild. So try to block off as many points for the smoke. As I was mentioned, Tommy's still going to be working on this for the past couple days. He's got one side partially complete and closed off right here. And we'll go into a little bit more detail on this side to show you how he does that. Adam Green, ladies and gentlemen, hard at work. These are where your roll cages are done right here. And my space for walking through is getting smaller and smaller. So this car is going to stay with the LS based engine, and this is what was on there. It was a LS1. It's got rods and pistons and a cam, nothing crazy. We weren't doing anything wild in this one. Originally when it went in, it was just stock LS1. We just put it in so we can test out the ISR 350Z mount kit, and it worked beautifully. And then we decided to make it a little bit more power, a little bit more fun. We added camshafts, and then, you know, it was a tired engine, so then we went ahead and took it out and built it with rods and pistons. And we didn't go wild on it because we knew we weren't going to try to push too much power out of it. You know, it was just nothing crazy done to the heads. Still got the pan on here, stock water pump. And then we decided, you know what, let's just push it a little further, and went ahead and put this supercharger on. And we've had this one for a while. It was the one that was on the Genesis that we built, and it was also on one of the S14s we had in Formula Drift, I would say about 8 years ago, and it's just been a trooper. But we didn't put this engine specifically for the supercharger, and I think we kind of overdid it. And the last time the car ran, it rod knocked, or it locked up, so we just pulled it out. And now that we're turning it into a Formula Drift Pro car, the LS1's not going to suffice. This thing only made like 550 horsepower, and I say only made 550 horsepower, but for Pro, that's just not gonna cut it. So we have here, this is a one that we've had. It's actually a LS2 based, stroked, and it's a 402. It's got the square port heads, and that one's actually still cathedral port. That's why it worked with the blower. But this one, we haven't fully decided yet, but we're pretty sure we're going to go with a setup that we've had on Alec Honadale's car, and we had on Pat Gooden's car, and Nate Hamilton's car, which was a turbo setup, where we mount the turbo somewhere like here in the front. And we made really good power. Hamilton's car was the one that we made the most on, and it made almost, what did Nate's car make?
like
920 to the wheel. Yeah, no, it was 880 to the wheel. Right, 880 to the wheel, and it was only on 7 pounds of boost, which that thing was, yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. And
great news, they made the same amount of torque to the power.
Yeah, it made a lot of power, and Nate had a 435 LSX cubic inch block, which, you know, we were going for way more horsepower, and then we decided that it didn't really need all that. So this was the one we pulled out before we went to the 435 LSX block, and it just needs to be refreshed, essentially, and maybe with a same amount of boost. This one's got low cubic inch. We just not shoot for that much power. I'm hoping we make like 800, and I think we can do it just same way. Turbo in the front, have the manifolds kind of just go up, and we gotta really see where we can put the manifolds if we go turbo. And we got a nice little mock engine for that. Actually, let's go look at that. We haven't fully sat it in here, but this is just a LS3 intake, and this is just like a mock, I think it's foam engine, and it's gonna give us an idea of where the engine's gonna sit. We haven't sent it or anything right now, just kind of stuck it in there. These are the mounts that were originally in there, and it's the ISR mounts, and it's the same mounts that you can use just right into your 350Z and do this swap with. And it looks like you got plenty of room here, but once you've got valve covers on, you've got coil packs and spark plugs and the manifolds, and then you got to route a downpipe through here. It gets pretty wild. But physically, externally, all these LSs are the same. So the LS1, whether it be 5.7 or the 6 liter or the 6.2 LS3, they all physically externally are the same. So we can use this mock block for any kind of the LS Gen 3 stuff pretty much across the whole board. So we got a little flange on there, and just me and Tommy last night were just thinking about how we're gonna do this. We haven't decided if it's gonna be nitrous or turbo yet, so that's in there, but we'll get further into that. Right now, today, as I was mentioning, it's all gonna be about tearing down this LS and seeing why it gave out, and what we can do to improve it. But I think it had a stock oil pump in there, and it's just a stock balancer on this one too. So there's a lot of things we can do to prevent what may have happened. And you can see that it's got a bunch of oil around here, so it probably leaks some, and this isn't really the ideal setup. So especially with the supercharger on, especially stock crank, we were just kind of pushing our limits. But let's tear it down and actually find out what happened. All right, I'll get that set up. Let's push this out. Found this lucky guy in here, and this is part of the bearing. I'm the only one that's, if you got right here, you can see a nice bearing hanging out of the rod. All the rest of them seem pretty good, which is strange as to see the oil being starved in the middle. We were thinking supercharger stuff in the front would have put extra weight, maybe messed up, pulled up on a bearing on this side on the front, but these ones are fine too around it, and nothing seemed to be clogged and nothing seemed to be bad. The oil wasn't bad. So see what's going on, but it's gonna need a new crank, gonna need at least 2 new rods, and I haven't pulled anything of the pistons or the rods out yet. You know, the engine is completely locked. You can't spin this at all, but I'm not saying I was going to get much leverage on that anyway, but gonna have to take these out, pull the caps, drop the pistons out the bottom, see what's salvageable. But luckily we weren't even really using this engine for to make it a pro car, so just wanted to figure out what was wrong so we don't do it again on the next engine. But this is the first time this has happened to me. I don't know about you guys.
No, I've never seen a bearing really come out like that. Especially like you were saying in the middle.
But
yeah, luckily she'll be a spare.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, assuming the rest is all in good shape.
All the other race engines have been dry sump, so the idea is that maybe we just go dry sump with it, and this is a wet sump. It's cheap, you know, but the dry sump is the way to go. It's just no, it's got rods, pistons, but stock crank. The other one has a forged crank, but as I was mentioning, all the ones we've ever done on the pro cars have been dry sump, minus Pat's. Pat's was a champ.
It was a wet sump?
Yeah, it was wet sump. Exact same system as this. So
on the turbo?
Turbo, wet sump. So
yeah,
it didn't make a ton of power on it. So
yeah.
Check them all against each other and make sure they're straight. They're all straight. But I have not pulled the lifters. I have not pulled the oil pump. So I'll go ahead and get the oil pump out, get the lifters out, and do closer inspection. Now I know exactly which one is messed up.